hunters, Bob and Fred, were going on a hunting trip. They get to where they wanted to be and started walking. About a half hour after walking, they sat down to take a rest. Bob said to Fred, "Not feeling so good." Fred said, "Well, we can walk back to the truck." Bob says, "Yeah, let's do that." So they start walking. About 15 minutes into the trip, Bob falls over. Fred panics and calls 911. The operator says and answers, "911, what is your emergency?" Fred says, "My friend fell over with a heart attack and I think he's dead. What should I do?" The operator says, "Well, make sure he's first dead." Fred says, "Okay." The operator listens and hears a huge bang. Fred gets back on the phone. He says, "Okay, he's dead. Now what?" I may not have a voice, but there's still a sense of humor. You know, when I think about mountains, I think about these gigantic mounds of dirt as you drive down roads in Colorado. In fact, I remember when Sam and Margie came back, they had gone to this chapel up on this big mountaintop and brought back these spectacular pictures. And if anybody's ever been out west, in fact, you don't even always have to go out west. You even have mountains down to the south and east of us in the Appalachian. But you know, when I think about even just being in Colorado, looking up at those mountaintops, I think, gee, how close to God can I get if I got all the way to the top? And in fact, when I look up there, I think, gee, it can't be that far up there. That's just a good couple-hour hike to get up there, right? But you know, as I gaze at those snow-capped mountains and think about just reaching to God right from the top, I think about that perfect Kodak moment, about how quiet and how serene it can be up on those mountaintops. In fact, I remember back from about 15 years ago, I traveled with a group to go out to Rocky Boy, Montana. And this Indian reservation that we were doing this service project for, they had this chapel that was up on this mountain, right up from the reservation. And it was called Chapel in the Sky. And now I know why they called it Chapel in the Sky. And we viewed it from the ground below. In fact, they pointed it out and they said it's about a 2-hour climb to get up to the chapel in the sky. You know, it was perfect when we got up there. In fact, as we arrived to the chapel, there was just a cross and a couple benches that were sitting up there where these Indians go up there to worship every week. And you know, I think about today's gospel text and how perfect that would be to say, you know, now I understand why Jesus took his disciples up on the mountaintop. Because as we got up to Rocky Boy, it was absolutely quiet. And in fact, everybody was in silence. It was so peaceful and serene. In fact, as you looked out upon the reservation, it was just an awesome, perfect setting. But you know, the one thing that I have to remember that we were not prepared for was that 2-hour hike to get up there. And in fact, if I remember correctly, most of us were pretty winded by the time we actually got up there. That was a lot of work. It took a lot of effort. That was not just a little 2-hour climb. That was an adventure, to say the least. And in fact, this is where I was actually going to come and sing for you today. With this voice, I can't. In American Idol, sorry, I can't try it out. But I remember when we talk about mountains and talk about mountains in our life and these struggles that we have, I think about the movie Sound of Music. Anybody remember that? In fact, a couple of you knew that was coming, didn't you? I think about Maria, this gal that wants to be a nun. And she's sent off to the Von Trapp family. Most of you know the Sound of Music, so I don't have to replay all of it. But I just wanted to kind of set it up again. That you know she had all these struggles and these trials and snakes and spiders that they were putting on her seat, and I think it was a pine cone they put at her seat that one night. I almost tried to watch it last night to get back up to speed for what I might miss. But you know, there was a point in that movie where fear struck Maria. And what happened? She ran back to the abbey where she knew she could be safe. And she remained in silence. But then the Reverend Mother knew better. She gave her time, gave her space, but brought her into that office. And she helped Maria get past those fears. And I thought it was kind of interesting that the Reverend Mother would actually use a metaphor of a mountain for the song that she would sing, called Climb Every Mountain. And most of us know this song. In fact, it's one of my favorite. If you ever come over to the house and I have that movie on, when this song comes up, you know I love to sing, and I'll just belt it out with her. Let's hear these words. I was going to sing it for you, but you should know these words. Climb every mountain, search high and low, follow every byway, every path you know. Climb every mountain, ford every stream, follow every rainbow, till you find your dream. A dream that will need all the love that you can give every day of your life for as long as you live. Climb every mountain, ford every stream, follow every rainbow, till you find your dream. You know, as I think about those words, and most of you, I know you were kind of humming it in your mind, there's a lot of truth about climbing a mountain. Even though it was a theatrical theme, I have to wonder as they wrote it, you know, how marvelous it is, because as Christians, we journey every day. And in fact, we climb mountains every day as Christians, don't we? In fact, yes, you agree. You know, there's some fundamentals to mountain climbing. In fact, if you get on some websites, those who are at least a little adventurous and want to go climb those high peaks at 15,000, 20,000 feet, it takes preparation. It's going to take preparation on your part. One, you need to know where you're going. Two, you need to make sure you've got the right clothes and the right tools before you get up there, or you're going to get stuck. And in fact, most of these websites will tell you better be prepared for obstacles, because it's a guarantee that obstacles are going to come in your way. And in fact, when those obstacles come, you better know how to overcome those obstacles. But you know, the funny part to this whole thing was to make sure that you're rested. I thought that was kind of interesting. But I understand that, because what had happened, we had been traveling for 2.5 days to get out to Rocky Boy, Montana. And we pulled in at the reservation about 5:30 in the evening. They sat us down, gave us this big Indian dinner, which was actually really good. And then they said, let's go up to the chapel, which is a 2-hour hike. We were rested. We had been driving for 2.5 days. We were exhausted. And then to go up this mountain, it takes some effort. And I understood. We had to dig deep down within ourselves just to get up there. And you know, as Christians, I think it's fundamental that we have to prepare for the mountains that come in our own lives. And I'd like to take our Bibles and let's open to Joshua, Old Testament. Let's turn to Joshua. We've got a couple things to open up. And when we talk about preparation, as Christians, when we have mountains that we have to climb, it takes preparation. And in order for us to prepare, there's one clear thing that we have to choose. And I love this from Joshua, chapter 24, verse 14 and 15. Joshua chapter 24, verse 14 and 15. Honor the wholeheartedly. Put away forever the idols your ancestors worshipped when they lived beyond the Euphrates River in Egypt. Serve the Lord alone. But if you are unwilling to serve the Lord, then choose today who you will serve. You know, I think that's a really important question that we as Christians have to answer. Who are we going to serve? And in fact, who leads you? I would hope everybody in here would say, Jesus Christ leads me. There's no doubt about it. And in fact, when it came to leading Peter, James, and John, they knew a lot about that. They actually followed Jesus up to that mountain. And in fact, they adored Jesus Christ so much that they followed him faithfully. They gave up all they had, gave up their families, gave up all their possessions, just to follow Jesus. And in fact, were they prepared to climb that mountain that day? I have to wonder. But you know, Jesus guided them. And what was the first thing I told you? You need to make sure you know your path. Do you know where you're going in life? Actually, some of us wonder day to day, who's following who? And who's leading me? But you know, the disciples had to know that it was going to be tough. They knew it was going to be tough to follow Jesus. People mocked him. They made fun of him. But they were willing to endure. So that's what led me back to this chapter and verse today. To ask that question, who will you follow? Are you willing to endure? Are you willing to take on what it takes to climb the mountain with Jesus?